This is Chapter 8, Transport in Animals and Plants. We will be discussing transport system in mammals. Today's discussion will be about the initiation and regulation of a heartbeat. The heart is made up of cardiac muscles that are myogenic. Myogenic means that the contraction of the heart muscles are not initiated by the nervous system. What this means is the heart is not pumping because the brain is telling it to do so. So then, what initiates the heartbeat? It is the nodes. We've learned about the nodes earlier. You have the sinoatrial node, then you have the atrioventricular node, the bundle of His, and then finally the Purkinje fibers. So the one that actually initiates the heartbeat is the first node, that is the sinoatrial node. Now since the sinoatrial node is what starts off a heartbeat, therefore it is called the natural pacemaker. Okay, it's a pacemaker because it can set the rate and timing for our cardiac muscles to contract. This is because the sinoatrial node can generate its own electrical impulse. So when the impulse is generated quickly, then the rate of our heartbeat begins to increase. The sinoatrial node also controls atrial systole. Only when the SAN releases the impulse and the impulse spreads to both atria, then atrial systole occurs. So you see, in a hospital situation, when a heart stops, that is because the sinoatrial node has stopped releasing electrical impulse. So I'm sure in movies you have seen, okay, the doctors, they will use these paddles that are connected to electricity and place it on the heart, okay, to give the heart sort of an electric shock. So in that way, the sinoatrial node will restart and emit impulse once again. Next, we look at the second node, that is the atrioventricular node, AVN. Now AVN cannot generate its own impulse. Instead, what it does is it will receive impulse from the SAN and then it will relay or pass the impulse to the bundle of His. Now what AVN can also do is that it can amplify the impulse that it received from SAN. Okay, because the impulse that is passed from the AVN must be powerful enough to reach the bundle of His as well as the Purkinje fibers. So remember, AVN cannot generate its own impulse, but it can amplify the impulse that is coming from SAN. Now, the passing of the impulse by the AVN to the bundle of His is actually delayed by 0.1 seconds. The reason this happens is to make sure that atrial systole is complete before ventricular systole begins. Okay, so the delay will give the atria enough time to pump all the blood into the ventricle. Next, we look at the bundle of His. The bundle of His will receive impulse from the AVN and then it will relay or pass the impulse along the septum to the tip of the heart here, known as the heart apex. So bundle of His does not generate impulse, nor does it amplify impulse. It only relays the impulse. Finally, we look at the Purkinje fibers. The Purkinje fibers will receive impulse from the bundle of His and then conduct or relay or transmit, you can use all these words, Okay, it will pass the impulse up the ventricular wall on the left and the right, and then finally this will lead to ventricular systole that will last 0.3 seconds. So for ventricular systole to occur, the impulse must travel from AVN to the bundle of His and then to the Purkinje fibers. Then for 0.3 seconds, ventricular systole will occur. What you see now is known as an electrocardiogram, or short form ECG. The ECG is actually measuring the amount of electrical impulse being emitted by the heart. So normally in hospitals, patients will be attached to some electrodes that will measure the electrical impulses of the heart and show this appearance if alive, and if it flatlines, then it indicates that the heart is not emitting any more impulse and the person is most likely dead. So this ECG diagram is usually called the PQRST wave. Okay, each peak of this wave shows different stages of the cardiac cycle. The P wave in the ECG represents atrial systole. The QRS wave represents ventricular systole, and the T wave represents heart diastole. You can see that the QRS wave is much taller than the P wave. Okay, this is because P wave is measuring the electrical impulse generated by the SAN and the impulse that is being transmitted to the atria. The QRS wave is measuring the impulse that is traveling from the AVN into the bundle of His and up the Purkinje fibers. Now, how that impulse is much higher than the P wave is because, as mentioned earlier, the AVN amplifies the electrical impulse. So that is why the QRS is much taller. Now, during heart diastole, there is no transmission of impulse anymore, but there is a wave measured by the ECG because during the recovery phase, the electrical impulse that was in the ventricular wall will actually return to the Purkinje fibers. So the movement of the electrical impulse in the opposite direction is also being measured by the ECG. So in a normal ECG, the distance between the P, Q, R, S and T waves will be, as in theory, 0.1 seconds, 0.3 seconds and 0.4 seconds. So when doctors read the ECG chart, they will look at the distance to determine whether you have a normal heartbeat, or like you see here, the PQRST waves are closer together, indicating that your heart is beating faster than normal, or like here, the waves are further apart, so your heart is beating slower than normal. And over here you see sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow. So that's irregular heartbeat. The pattern of the heartbeat could be due to a number of factors. Okay, maybe you are sleeping or you are excited, but it also could be that there is something wrong with the sinoatrial node. So when doctors confirm that it is something wrong with the sinoatrial node, then doctors will replace the natural pacemaker with an artificial pacemaker operated by battery. Now you know how the heartbeat is initiated. We move on to how the heartbeat is regulated. Okay, initiated means how the heartbeat starts, but regulated is about how the the heartbeat is controlled to beat faster or slower. Okay, the process of regulation, just as in regulation of gaseous exchange, follows the same rule, that is stimulus, receptor, control center, effector and response. When studying this chapter, please be very clear about the examples for each category, because you will see an overlap with the categories in gaseous exchange. We look now at the stimulus in regulation of heartbeat. The stimulus can be changes in the partial pressure of oxygen, partial pressure of carbon dioxide, pH or hydrogen ion concentration, changes in temperature, changes in hormone level, as well as changes in blood pressure. And all these changes are limited to the blood. Now this stimulus will be detected by a receptor. The receptors are the carotid body and aortic body. Okay, but you see, it not only functions as a chemoreceptor, it also functions as a baroreceptor. So remember, the carotid body is located at the carotid arteries and the aortic body is located at the aorta. So what the chemoreceptor does is it will measure the changes in the partial pressure of oxygen, carbon dioxide, pH, hydrogen ion, as well as the hormone adrenaline in the blood. Okay, I also put temperature here, but actually changes in temperature in the blood will be detected by another receptor known as the thermoreceptor, which we will learn in temperature regulation. Now, the carotid body and the aortic body can also function as a baroreceptor when changes in blood pressure of the blood vessels are detected. So these receptors, once stimulated, will then transmit impulse to the control center. The control center is in the brain, located at the medulla oblongata. So in the medulla oblongata, there is now another center called the cardiovascular center. And this cardiovascular center is divided into the acceleratory center to increase our heart rate and the inhibitory center to decrease our heart rate. But other than the cardiovascular center, the medulla oblongata also has a vasomotor center. This center controls the diameter of our blood vessels. So next we need to know, where do the nerves from these centers go to? That means we need to know what are the effectors involved. We now look at how the effector and response work. The control center, that is the cardiovascular center, has the acceleratory center connected to the sinoatrial node. So the sinoatrial node is the effector. The name of the nerve that connects the acceleratory center to the sinoatrial node is known as the sympathetic nerve. This nerve will cause the sinoatrial node to generate impulse quickly, so your heart rate will increase. The inhibitory center is connected to the sinoatrial node by a parasympathetic nerve. So the inhibitory center will cause the sinoatrial node to generate impulse slowly, so your heart rate will decrease. Then we have the vasomotor center that controls the diameter of your blood vessels. So what the vasomotor can do when it is stimulated, okay, it can either cause the blood vessels to vasoconstrict, become smaller, or vasodilate, become bigger. So next we look at the summary of the whole process. Now the heartbeat can actually increase due to high concentrations of adrenaline when we are excited, or it can increase when the partial pressure of oxygen in our blood decreases, okay, due to activity. Okay, and naturally when partial pressure of oxygen decreases, partial pressure of carbon dioxide increases. When partial pressure of carbon dioxide increases, pH decreases, and pH is measured by the increase in the amount of hydrogen ions. And of course, when we are active, our blood temperature also increases. So all these factors can cause our heart rate to increase. So let's look at how that happens. Once a stimulus is detected, the chemoreceptors at the aortic body and the carotid body will transmit an impulse to the cardiovascular center in the medulla oblongata. Okay, and at the acceleratory center, a new impulse will be generated via the sympathetic nerve to the sinoatrial node. This will cause the sinoatrial node to generate impulse quickly, and your heart rate will increase. So when your heart rate increases, more blood is pumped out quickly, so your cardiac output also increases. So when blood is rushing out a lot through our blood vessels will experience a pressure. So when that pressure is found in the carotid arteries and the aorta, the aortic body and the carotid body will become baroreceptors and transmit impulse now to the vasomotor center in the medulla oblongata. So the vasomotor center will transmit an impulse to the walls of the arterioles, causing the arterioles to vasodilate. So now there is more space for the blood to flow. But since the blood is flowing more smoothly, there is no more pressure felt by the blood vessels. So because of that, the baroreceptor will not be stimulated. When the baroreceptor is not stimulated, no more impulse is transmitted to the vasomotor center. So now the inhibitory center at the cardiovascular center will be stimulated, and the inhibitory center will transmit an impulse via the parasympathetic nerve to the sinoatrial node. So this will cause the sinoatrial node to generate impulse slowly. So this time your heart rate will decrease, and because of that, the amount of blood being pumped out will also decrease. So now you see the blood vessel is too big for the little bit of blood that is traveling. So because of that, the vasomotor center will make the blood vessels vasoconstrict. So this is how our heartbeat is regulated. So with that, I come to the end of today's video. See you soon.